What is up, world? You are in tune to Marvelous Talk. And man, I got my player partners here today, and it's a special occasion. It's a Saturday morning, and we're definitely going to get into the book of Boba Fett. And we're just going to just talk about Boba Fett today, man. And I got my partners with me. Max, what's popping, man? How you doing?
Doing good, man. How are you?
I'm excellent. I'm excellent. And Big G, man, what popping? You ready, man? We about to get into Boba Fett.
Man, Boba Fett is my dude, man. What the first pajamas, Marvel superhero pajamas I ever had when I was a little kid was the Boba Fett pajamas, man. He's been my
Well,
dude
you
for a
know, it's
long
not
time.
Marvel. I mean, it was Star Wars, but it wasn't Marvel.
What you don't know is that it originally was a Marvel production, but we'll get into that a little bit as we go.
Okay, so we're learning more stuff about Boba Fett as we go. But before we get into that, man, let's definitely get into this. And of course, we are talking about the book of Boba Fett today, man. Look, I'm excited, man. I mean, honestly, I have been watching the Disney version of Boba Fett for the last, couple of weeks, and man, it's just been getting better and better and better and better and better. And Max and Big G are about to go on this deep dive with you guys, and I'm gonna be right here for the ride. Totally, we're gonna explore Boba Fett as we know it from the series that we've been watching, and then we're gonna get into the history of Boba Fett. We're gonna get into where he came from, what he does, and his specific purpose in the Star Wars universe. But before we actually get in there, man, we want to make sure that you take the time. If you love our content and you like watching and getting it in with us, man, make sure you like and subscribe. Like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube. Definitely, we here for you and yours, man. But first, let's go and let's start with Boba Fett's history. Let's start with who he is as an individual and where did he come from. So, Max, let's talk about the origin of Boba Fett, being that we're going to talk about his father first. Let's do that.
So yeah, it's exactly what you said. How do you talk about a guy after you don't talk about where he comes from? And where he comes from is Jango Fett. We all know him as the template for the clone army used in episodes 2 and 3, and then to eventually eradicate the Jedi. But where did he come from? He was born on a planet named Concord Dawn, which is a moon in the Mandalore sector. Roughly 1/3 of the planet was blown into asteroids. So not an amazing planet to start with. But he's living his life with his family, doing nothing, and the Mandalorians come to his planet. This is not canon anymore, unfortunately. All it says in canon is he fought in a Mandalorian civil war before his death. So there's really not much anymore, but we had an expanded universe, which happened after George Lucas finished the third book. He went back, he explored everything, all the stories. So he's on his family farm. The Death Watch get there, and this group named the True Mandalorians get there. The True Mandalorians were led by the Mandalore at the time named Jaster Muriel. He wanted them to be honorable. He wanted Mandalorians to have morals. You can serve as a super commando, but you need to be a good dude. And Death Watch was just barbarians. We like the old ways. Basically, the Death Watch murders Jango Fett's whole family. They kidnap his sister, and Jango Fett goes with the True Mandalorians and becomes a Mandalorian. Now, that's what people don't understand about Mandalorian race sometimes. You don't have to be born into it. A lot of times they're so willing to adopt because you can ask Sean, the numbers are dwindling down for Mandalorians.
Well, dang. No wonder the numbers are dwindling down.
Yeah, they're just killing each other all the time.
Killing each They're killing everybody, man. They fighting.
It's sort of like the Earth. Like the Earth, you have people that are from different regimes, and then you find out that there's 67 different regimes of the same thing. Like what's going on in China right now with the Olympics. You know, they're finding out that our country protested that stuff from China because there's 56 different types of Asians that live in that region, and there's one set of people that's being fought against or protested against. So you have to have that mindset about that the Mandalorians keep chopping it up because one tribe doesn't agree with another tribe.
Exactly. Well said. So as Jango Fett is adopted into the Mandalorian culture, he's getting trained by the leader of the true Mandalorians. The leader, of the Death Watch is a guy named Tor Vizsla. Have we heard the name Vizsla before? If you watch the Clone Wars, you know him as the first guy to wield the darksaber we see. Yep. And now in Book of Boba, the duel we saw.
What were they called? The Death what?
Death Watch. They're called Death Watch.
Listen, man, how you gonna survive if you on the Death? You know what I'm saying? If you on something called a Death Watch, you're not gonna make it too far. That's just my thought, Pat. That's my thought. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, and you see the Death Watch on the Clone Wars animated series. You see Bo-Katan too. So basically, Vizsla, he bribes the plant. He kills the leader, Jaster Muriel. So now Jango Fett's in charge. He bribes a leader of a planet to say, "Oh, look, the true Mandalorians are like savages. They're killing everything," and the Jedi show up, led by Count Dooku. Jango Fett's forces get wiped out, and in a rampage, he kills 6 Jedi with nothing but his bare hands. Yep. But he is eventually subdued by Count Dooku and his Padawan. He's sold into slavery. He eventually works himself to be a free man. He goes back and kills Vizsla.
Let's not roll past this, Max. Like that's a easy thing. These are Jedi, okay? These are people who can move stuff with their mind. You know what I'm saying? These are people who can crush things and he's killing them with his hands. And he ain't got no lightsaber. He ain't got no gun. He killed them with his hands. That's not an easy feat. He was nice. He was nice.
He was a monster, and I think that's exactly why. A few years later, Count Dooku contacts him after he's a free man, after he's killed the Death Watch leader. He's like, "Hey, I need you to kill my Padawan for a bounty. There'll be a huge reward in place if you do it." And that's what Jango Fett did. He killed his Count Dooku's fallen Padawan, and he offered him 5 million credits to become the clone template for the army. But that wasn't enough for Jango Fett. He said, "I want an unaltered clone." And I have an excerpt from the book 000 Republic Commando 000 where Jango Fett explains like what Boba Fett means to him. He's just a baby. He said this is between him and one of his sergeants. He said, "Boba looks just like them. He would. He's been a clone from me too." "Oh, really? Should I take him?" "He was my price, worth more to me than all the credits."
Yep. Django's mind or mindset was that, yes, he was bought off by the new reign of the Empire, which created this whole big thing about how they was going to come into power. But the issue with Django was, yes, his DNA, or he had all the stuff that was going to make him be like the perfect killing machine. But he wanted an unaltered clone because he thought that he could pour into that child and have him rise the Mandalorian culture back up. Boba Fett's original intent was to become the new leader of the Mandalorians that was going to be created and overtake the whole universe, including the Empire and the Jedi. So that was the whole thing, like the little sidebar that a lot of people didn't know, is that Django's job in creating Boba was to make Boba the leader of the new set of Mandalorians that was going to rise to power. Correct, Max?
Correct. Right on it? And I just think it just really speaks to how much Jango loved Boba. It wasn't just about 10 million credits, 20. He didn't care. At the end of the day, he gave up 10 years of prime bounty hunting. And he still did some side jobs. He trained Boba Fett, but he gave it up to be a father. And Mandalorian culture before was really about being a father, in passing your ideals to your son or daughter. In Mandalorian, they don't care if you're a woman. You can fight. They were just like, we want warriors. It don't matter how they come. It don't matter if he's a Wookiee. He can be Mandalorian. We'll get him some big ass Beskar, excuse my language. But so after this, he's training Boba Fett. We know what happens in episode 2, right? He kills his best friend as he's about to snitch. Another indication of snitching never works out for anybody.
Never
Correct.
works out.
And then they fight Obi-Wan Kenobi. He takes him. It's like a stalemate. He escapes. And then he runs into Mace Windu, who just happened to be the second baddest dude in the galaxy at the time, and gets decapitated. And there's no shame losing to Mace Windu.
No,
there's no shame.
Mace was ridiculous.
Yeah, there's no shame.
I think when we start to think about this, honestly, and the way it was portrayed, I'm just gonna go with the way it was portrayed by Samuel L. Jackson's character. First of all, I mean, just a sidebar, I feel like him going out to the Emperor and Anakin, I think that was whack. I think there's some books that say he didn't die, but I mean, honestly, Mace Windu, I loved him. He's a great character, great Jedi, powerful Jedi. We didn't get enough of him, but that just speaks, man. I mean, if you think about Django is killed Jedi with his bare hands already. We know this. Man killed Jedi with his bare hand. Killed Count Dooku's Padawan. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is a bad dude. But he got washed by Mace Windu. That's saying something, man. That's just saying something about Mace.
Definitely is. And I think Jango Fett definitely won the war. He lost the battle, but his intent for creating that army, it wasn't to free the Republic. It was to exterminate the Jedi, who he hated his whole life for destroying the Mandalorians that he was fighting with. And that's why Count Dooku picked him. He's like, this is the best soldier in the galaxy. Look what he did to Jedi. And if we're going to kill all the Jedi, we need a special breed.
Right. And for reference point, this is before Count Dooku. Count Dooku was originally a Jedi that betrayed the Jedi Order. And so you got to understand the logic or the thinking of this, right? Mandalorians represent the same thing of what Jedi represent. But Jedi is all about them being by themselves, being one of one and then coming together for one great cause. Mandalorian culture is not like that. Mandalorian culture is that we're all tied together to be this great unit, and this great unit can conquer and overcome everything. So it was like a different ideology, almost like how I said, like in the world today, where you have like a democratic society and a dictatorial society. It's the same ideology, two great things that can be great when they're put together right, coming against and fighting each other. So Mandalorians and Jedi have been enemies for a long, and this is before the Empire and everything. This is back when the Republican was running around, when the Republic was running around before the Empire.
Yeah, and while we're getting into this, let's not ignore Max's Boba Fett helmet on the desk. That's phenomenal.
That's false.
That's phenomenal.
It was nice to show up after 2 years, so I'm really excited to finally see it.
Oh God. Yeah, man, is that hot? Can you put that on your head?
Yeah, it definitely fits. It gets hot in there. I ain't gonna lie. I almost wore it for the pod, but I didn't want to stun on you guys too hard. I haven't earned my stripes yet as a Mandalorian. So
you ain't earned your stripes.
No.
Okay. Have you ever taken it off? It looks like you taking it off.
Yeah, I mean,
this ain't the way with you. This ain't the way.
Hey, I'm not a part of that sect of being a Mandalorian. I take my helmet off all the time.
Okay.
He's one of them. He's the third sect. He's one of them new Mandalorians. he ain't a Death Watch guy, but he's not one of the original Mandalorians. He's one of them new ones.
I always wondered, Max, if they can never take it off, how you eating?
Well, no, you just can't take it off and let people see their face, right? So
Correct.
They can take it off in like a dark room. And I mean, didn't he like lift up his helmet like just to see his mouth in Mandalorian? Like the Mando did it. Then had a little soup.
Yeah. But the reason why is because they think that part of their belief system or their religion is that they believe that if I'm able to see your face and all whatever else, it takes away from the ideology of a community. But if we all look the same, that means we all fight for one thing. That's why they always leave their helmet on, because they don't want any differences outside of their ranking in the Mandalorian army. That's why their Beskar armor looks different. And they have different colors, but we'll get into that as we talk about.
So how do they procreate if they can't take the helmet off? I'm just, you know what I'm saying?
You're
be
asking
him again.
questions we don't have the answers to, and I don't want to think about grown-ups doing stuff.
Right.
I'm just
Right.
saying, the Mandalore. Okay, all right, go ahead,
But
man.
again, that's a small sect of it. That's a small sect. There's so many different, like Sean already like alluded to. There's so many different versions of it. They're like a really divided people. In past times, there was no Darksaber in the original way the Mandalorians ruled. There was a guy named the Mandalore. He
Right.
was in charge of everything. He was the chieftain of all the tribes. So we don't know how the Darksaber is going to play into it yet. Like, I know it's like that's the leader of Mandalore if you have it because it's like an ancient thing, but that wasn't it. Like, they respect action above all else. That's what being a Mandalorian went. And I think Disney, like, to me, I was really into Mandalorians. Like, if I could be one thing, it wouldn't be a Jedi or Sith. I'd be a Mandalorian. That's just me. And they kind of established a Mandalorian culture, and Disney's kind of went back on it. And it's been a little strange to figure out, like, in the season finale of Mandalorian season 2, Boba Fett says, "I'm no Mandalorian." And that to me hurt. I was like, dude, you are. Like, look what your dad did for them. He was in the Civil War. He
Right.
raised you, and I'm sure he was like, "You're a Mando. This is us."
Right. Well, in the
I
comic book, in the comic book rendition, not the early Marvel comics, but once it was brought over to the new comic book, that story is told about how Django taught Boba from the beginning what he really was. Matter of fact, he actually made him go through Mandalorian trials to fight different stuff to get certain things and not be scared of certain stuff and not to be afraid and to have courage and to use wisdom. He actually put him through the trials to make sure that he was a Mandalorian. Before he was 13 years old. So that's a whole different backdrop story that a lot of folks don't know, that Boba himself was actually supposed to be raised to be the new head or the new king of the Mandalorians.
So let's go with it, Max. Next fact here.
Oh, it's just so, like, I just wanted, can we get into Boba Fett, just like the history of him? Was that be all right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So we really don't know what happens after episode 6. This is what we're learning, right, as it's going on. But before what happened, he took over, like, as a child, he teamed up with bounty hunters to kill Mace Windu unsuccessfully. He goes to jail, little juvenile hall. I don't know if they have juvie in the Republic, but he's there. He learned under Cad Bane and Hondo Ohnaka.
Yep.
So he's becoming a bounty hunter. He's learning. He sets up a syndicate on Tatooine. When he becomes a Boba Fett, we know, and like the chipped green armor you see in episodes 4, 5, and 6, he worked for the Empire all the time. Him and Vader were like on the same level, it seemed like. Obviously, Vader's probably a little stronger, but Vader, that was his guy. They even beefed, and Sean will get into that later. But he's the one who learned Luke Skywalker blew up the Death Star, and he learned his name, and he revealed it to Darth Vader. And that was just like, wow, that's my son. And then we see him in episode 5. He tracks down Han Solo. I mean, he must not have 3 minutes of screen time in the original trilogy. He's there for 3 minutes. It's kind of crazy how popular he is for a character who has like 6 lines of dialogue. He dies in a really dumb way because stupid blind Han Solo kills him in the Sarlacc pit before he escapes. Everyone thought he was dead. But he just became a beloved character. Sometimes it's just like, how did that happen, right? It's just like,
hey man, I remember saying to myself, Boba Fett is dope. Matter of fact, I had a Boba Fett action figure. I did.
And that's where he got famous, they say. They were like, it was like a huge thing, the Boba Fett action figure and stuff.
Yeah, I had a Boba Fett action figure. And literally, when I think about it, he was super popular. He was super popular, and he didn't have that much screen time. You're absolutely right, Max. You're absolutely right.
And I think so many people, due to you don't know anything about him, made their own history for him. Like, oh, Boba Fett was this, Boba Fett was that. And we only got to explore his life in books and stuff George Lucas let them make after episode 3, because I know people out there like, oh, Star Wars is alive. After episode 3, and correct me if I'm wrong, we were like, oh, it's done. We're not going to get anything else. George Lucas was like, I'm good. We're good. So go ahead.
But there was all kind of books out there, after the first 3 renditions, which, like I said, some of that stuff's canon and not. But what a lot of people don't know about Boba Fett is this. Do you know that Boba Fett was not in the original Star Wars movie, and he made his first appearance in the 1978 Christmas special that Star Wars did? And that's what put him in The Empire Strikes Back, because of how popular he was as a character from that Christmas special, which a lot of people don't know, Marvel Studios backed George Lucas with the money. That's how they were able to buy in to start the original Marvel comic book series with Star Wars, because they put the money up, or gave Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and them gave George Lucas money to produce that TV series, which was the Star Wars Christmas special, which featured Boba Fett. So that, like, there was like a big plan in motion to have Boba Fett become this thing, but we never really, like how you guys are saying, we never really got to explore it on the big screen, because he's probably got maybe 20 minutes, maybe 15 minutes of screen time in 3 movies. You know? Make sense?
Yeah, and he's not. It's not like they're developing his character. He's just like, I'm a bad dude. I've been here. You don't even need to know nothing about me. You just need to know when I walk in the room, people won't look at me.
I mean, think about this. He's so popular. We're talking about him today, and he had his own series on Disney Plus. That's how popular he was for 3 minutes of screen time and supposedly dead, right?
Yeah.
When he came back in The Mandalorian, the internet broke. You know what I mean? Everybody loves seeing Boba Fett. So I think, this just proves to his lore and his legend. So go ahead, Max. Tell us more about Boba Fett.
Mod, when Mandalorian was announced, we were all like, oh, it's Boba Fett show. Like, we're finally getting him. And then we were like, wait, this isn't Boba Fett. But it's kind of seemed to me, and maybe this is a segue to discuss who he is as a person. Mandalorian kind of acted more like the Boba Fett I thought we'd see than Boba Fett. Right. He's quiet. He's pragmatic. He's a little ruthless in a sense. And I know Mando's heart was melted by a cute little baby Yoda. He's cute. He'd melt anyone's heart. We get it. But Mando doesn't trust droids. He's disintegrating Jawas. He's just, and Boba Fett's kind of like respect. Like, this is my fan, like the respect. And it's like, what? It's kind of strange to me.
Well, I mean, look at what he done went through, man. He crawled out the belly of a beast. You know what I'm saying? Where he got acid, had to go out there in the sand, roll with the sand people. You know what I'm saying? But you'll get into that here in a second, man. I'm jumping ahead. But go ahead, Max, man. Go ahead.
No, I made my point. Here's what you guys think.
Yeah, I mean, but that's my thing. It's like you see Boba Fett after all of these things have happened to him. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times people's life experiences change who they are, right? So to his nature, he would probably be more like the Mandalorian if he hadn't went through what he went through. You know what I mean? I think the Sand People taught him, with the story we're being told, I think the Sand People taught him community, and they taught him, love for his brethren. And for that, he wanted to stop working for people just getting bounties and create something for him and his people. You know what I mean? And he said that on several different occasions throughout this episode, where it's like, I'm tired of making other people rich. I want to establish something for people like myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so, you just said the word community. And Sean mentioned community when talking about Mandalorians. Is this going to open him up to becoming a Mandalorian again? Or just finally establishing, like, oh, I am a Mando. Like, this is what I was, like, raised as. This is who my father was. Because he loved when he was like, this is my father's armor. He was a foundling. So maybe the community he learns is going to open him up to that.
Right, but see, that's the thing about Boba. Boba always really had that communal thing in it. What happened was Boba took a lot of hits and took a lot of losses. And that, any time in life when you start losing stuff, man, you go into isolation, either mentally, physically, or emotionally. So Boba, because of the amount of hits that he took, including the loss of his father, made him go away from that whole ideology of being communal. But in all actuality, he was raised. You got to remember, Boba was raised in a community with clones. There was hundreds and thousands of them, and by the cloners. The lady who's the cloner, or the female version of the cloner, basically was Boba Fett's mom. So he understood the idea of, okay, family, togetherness. We all got to work together, come together. We all have our own roles to be able to be the best that we can be. So, but he got away from that based on his hits or how many things he lost over time. So I think that the show that they're doing on Disney Plus is to give us a backdrop of how Boba's going to go back to, like how you said, Max, back to that ideology of, wait a minute, that I am a Mandalorian. Because the bottom line is, Boba don't need bread. If you really understand and know who Boba is, Django left Boba a fortune. Boba Fett had so much credits and so much money of Imperial credits left to him from Django, but all the little different hits that Django did as a bounty hunter, that he never needed any money. They made a reference point of that on the show where they was like, well, sometimes you got to hire muscle and all whatever else. And he was like, well, I got plenty of Imperial credits. Well, she was like, well, sometimes you don't need credits. You need A, B, C, and D. He's like, he'll never run out of bread. Listen, backdrop story. Boba was an orphan for a little while. He got sold from slavery into being an orphan. The lady who was in Clone Wars, that was a changeling that could switch her body, she stole Boba Fett to try to get at Jango Fett's fortune. And they ended up taking 500,000 Republican credits out of his account. That's letting you know how much bread this dude had, because they only took 500,000. He had credits on top of credits on top of credits because he worked for the Republic at first, Django did, and then worked for the Empire. He had bread.
And Count Dooku, who had a whole planet.
Well, he was papered up.
I like what you said, Sean, and I just think it's interesting. Maybe even growing up and you're surrounded by literal copies of you,
right,
can kind of be like, I don't want to be like them. Like in the clones, and essentially had Mandalorian in them. They're a clone of a Mandalorian, Jango Fett. They kind of raised, like, one of their fight songs is like a Mandalorian, like, fight him.
Right.
So maybe just Boba was like, I don't want to be like them. You can like kind of change it back to when Bo-Katan told Boba, I've heard your voice thousands of times.
Right.
That's probably what triggered him. Because that was like the old Boba Fett to me when he's like, mine might be the last you hear. Like, he's like, I'm going to kill you right now for even just mentioning that.
Right. Right.
So maybe that triggered him into the sense it's like, oh my God, I'm really, like, kind of think about it, right? There's 500,000 copies of you. Like, you can believe he's special. And Boba Fett is special, but man, it's like, there's 500,000 copies of me fighting in wars that look just like me, that sound just like me. And even though they're not Boba Fett, they don't have the mental makeup or just the inner workings of him that make him who he is.
Right.
It's just, it can get overwhelming at times.
Well, I think that they're eventually, and this might be a spoiler, but I think they're eventually going to explore how the DNA pattern for Boba was altered a little bit. And he wasn't a perfect copy of Django. I think that there was some stuff that the cloners put in him that you might eventually see play out on the big screen, to where he wasn't a perfect copy of Django, which is going to give him more Kree or more tie back to the original Mandalorians. Because you got to remember, the cloners, they had DNA samples from everything across the universe. So I think that they might, and I really do believe you're going to explore maybe in Boba Fett Season 2 or Mandalorian Season 3, because you're seeing these titles cross over each other. So I really do believe that they're going to explore the backdrop history of Boba and really say like who he is. Because Boba, there's so much history from the comic book standpoint and from like what we thought the old canon was about Star Wars and who Boba actually is. Like, one of the big things that I always like to talk about with Boba Fett is how he's tied to the Hutts. And, the Hutts and Boba, we're now seeing in Boba Fett that there's actually more Hutts than Jabba. We just saw the twins, but there's a whole bunch of Hutts. And the Hutts and Boba Fett and Jango Fett have a serious history. So that's why I think that you're going to see that there's stuff tied into Boba that's a little bit more than him being an exact duplicate of Django. That's just me.
So, Max, as we progress with Boba, man, let's keep it moving with Boba Fett.
Would you want to talk about it as like characteristics or what we think they are?
No, let's talk about what happened to him after the Empire Strikes. Well, no, after Return of the Jedi.
Well, I mean, we're watching it now, and like in the expanded universe, he's saved by the bounty hunter Dengar. He nurses Boba to health, and Boba goes back to being like, "Hey, I'm the top dog here. You guys need to figure me. Like, you guys have to understand. Like, Boba Fett's back. He actually has a family. He had a daughter, but he gets like out of touch. In Mandalorian culture, it's very easy to divorce and marry somebody. It's like 6 words you have to say to each other. You're married, and then you can be basically like I forget the word, but it's like basically you're a deadbeat dad. Like, we're done. We disown, like, the kids can disown the father, so they have no relationship with them. It's really like it's kind of a harsh reality. It's like a harsh culture because they have like 20 different words for stab in Mandalorian, but they have no word for hero. And that's definitely not what Boba Fett is. He's not a hero. He's an anti-hero at the best. He can be cruel, he can be destructive, but he gets the job done. Like, if you were like, hey, I need you to go kill Big G, he'd be like, all right, no problem. It's like, he doesn't care it's your brother.
I want Big G around.
No, I want nothing to have Big G. I'm not going to put on my Boba Fett helmet and do a bounty right now. But like, that's just who he is. He doesn't care. He's like, hey, like, this is my code. The highest bidder wins. And I think they're kind of going away from what made him that. But you said sometimes when stuff happens, you get a second chance in life.
Well, you know, in the new canon with Boba Fett, you were starting to get backdrop story about the relationship between Django and Boba. And Django taught Boba how to kill a whole bunch of different kind of ways. Like, and one of the things that he taught Boba was, don't ever use more force than you actually have to. And that was one way of like keeping him centered. Because there's like in a comic book run, you got where Django, like, they get a hit, they get a call from the new Empire. It's actually Count Dooku tells them, we want you to kill this guy, right? Well, when they go kill him, he snipers this dude. Like, Django's like, okay, Boba's going to make the kill. So when they go to do it, Boba snipers this dude from like 5 miles away. You know, like he's got a scope and a gun that's going to shoot this guy from like 5 miles away. Well, Boba, because he wasn't as of age, and just FYI, Mandalorians, when you get 13 years old, you're considered a man. So he was under the age of 13. So when he shot, he hit him, but he didn't kill him. And so Django flew in and off the dude and killed him, and then went back to Boba and say, look, when you make a decision to kill somebody, you got to off them, because we don't want to use excessive force. Because when Django flew in to kill the guy, he killed a couple other people. And that goes against Mandalorian code, i.e. what you saw on the big screen in the book of Boba Fett. When the bounty was out for that one, I forgot that creature, the bounty was out. But Mandalorian went in there and said, I don't have no art or no issue with none of you other ones. Now, you can get hauled out. However, I'm taking this dude dead or alive. And then at the end, after he kills the dude, he says the room's full up of credits. Y'all can just go get whatever. I just want to leave because I got a bounty that's got to take care of this guy. So that's the whole Mandalorian creed. You don't use more excessive force than you ever supposed to. You always should just handle your business within what you got to handle and then move on to the next target.
Okay, so I like that you're talking about what's happening in the book of Boba Fett on Disney, because I want to kind of bring everybody up to speed, because that's where we are right now. So you have Boba going through, you know, he got out of the belly of, and they skipped some things, of course, because, you know, we'll get to that in a minute. They skipped some things, but they found him, you know, and he got in with the Sand People. The Sand People taught him how to fight, put the little worm in his nose, taught him how to fight. You know what I mean?
He did drugs. Yeah.
Yeah, he did acid, whatever.
Yeah. Lizard acid. I like it.
Lizard acid. I don't know what it was. But you know, definitely he garnered a relationship with them. Then he found his wingman. And what's her name again?
Fennec Shand.
Found Fennec Shand, and Fennec became his number 2. And basically, he found her wounded, greatly wounded. She was an assassin, a really great assassin. And, you know, he had her healed by some guys who put
Thundercat.
Some guys, yeah, it was Thundercat.
Thundercat.
Thundercat's an artist, by the way. You know, he's a musical artist. But anyway, he had her healed. He had some parts put inside of her. Definitely, she came back, and, you know, she showed that she was down. She was going to be a part of Boba's unit. And from there, Boba just started to reclaim the territory that Jabba had, right? So he was reclaiming the territory that Jabba had. Well, now there's some people who don't want to let that territory go. And they put some people in place. They called in the syndicate, definitely putting an army together to resist Boba Fett. Now, there's some stuff that's going to happen on the outside of that, but we're not going to deal with that. are going to deal with is the fact that now he's got a bad Wookiee rolling with him too, as well. And this Wookiee is from the Star Wars lore in the books. Talk to me about the Wookiee previously. Just give me a little bit about the Wookiee, Max and Sean, so that people will understand that he ain't just, some random dude.
Well, if you're a comic reader, which Sean is like the ultimate comic reader, he's the comic expert, you're going to love seeing Black Chrysanthemum. He's basically a bad version, like a evil version of Chewbacca, but he whooped Chewbacca's butt. He was a gladiator. He rose up. He became a bounty hunter, and he hates Trandoshans. Like the guy he ripped off the arms in the casino. They have beef with Wookiees. They want to enslave them. There's always been kind of that little like, oh man, like this is bad. Like what are they going to do? Like they're always trying to enslave the Wookiees. And you can let Sean take over because he's in the comics so much. He's a bad Wookiee.
Yeah. So FY, so people don't know the backstory of Black Chrysanthemum. Him and Chewbacca are first cousins. His daddy and Chewbacca's daddy are brothers, right? And so the Wookiees have like a creed or a code as far as how they live for ranking and to become like a high up. Well, they got to go through like a rites of passage. There was a fight between Chewbacca and this dude, and he hauled Chewbacca out. In the comic book, he should have killed Chewbacca, but he had some type of just care or generalized care to not take him out. Well, in that process, he went into like a fit of rage, and then they said he wasn't deemed worthy to hold the mantle as the head leader of the Chewbaccans, and he got banned, and he ended up becoming a bounty hunter, and there was a lot of stuff that went down with this dude. So he's like the ultimate warrior version of a Chewbaccan, right? And so the Chewbaccans
of a Wookiee.
Yeah, of a Wookiee. But the Wookiees are so critical in the Star Wars lore, right? Like the Wookiees, and I'm getting some sidebar just a little bit, but the Wookiees and Yoda's people are like they're like a tribe. So that's just to understand and know like how detailed in comics these two different sets of people or different sets of creatures from the universe were tied into each other. But Boba, as far as the show or the TV show goes, he hires him because you got to remember, Boba had access to information about every type of creature that ever lived throughout the whole universe. If you go back to the original Star Wars trilogy and The Empire Strikes Back, right? And Darth Vader was talking to all those different bounty hunters, at the top of that spaceship, and he was like, I want Skywalker alive and all whatever else. There was supposed to have been a rumor that a Black Chrysanthemum was supposed to have been in that shot, but they didn't want to have more than one Wookiee shown at that time in the series. So, and that's why you saw in the second set of the trilogies, the Wookiees was explored, and they had a whole Wookiee planet, and they showed like how the Yoda's people and all, how they were all interchangeable, with each other or intertwined with each other. So that's just a backdrop of how all that stuff ties together, because there's so much information in the comics that like when I'm seeing the stuff play out on the big screen, I'm like, oh, I know where that's from. Oh, I know where there's from. That because the comic book story is so large, including like with the Hutts, with the Wookiees, with the Jedi and the Empire. A lot of people don't even know this, that General Grievous and Boba fought. And that's a whole nother story. And that's sort of like how we got the version of the Boba that you saw in the first three renditions of the Star Wars movies. Boba came because he took an L to General Grievous. And this is before General Grievous became totally robotic, right? And there's a central theme in the comic books that you find out that, and then you're seeing this play out in Boba Fett. When you become robotic in a sense, that means you take your whatever, not your humanity, but your actual being away, and you become more dark and cold. So that's how Grievous became who he was, because Grievous got hauled out, so many times, and then, became more and more machine, more and more machine, more and more machine. So Boba lost to Grievous. And when Boba lost to Grievous, that sort of changed him or put him on the trajectory that I think we're seeing play out on the big screen.
Yeah, and being that we have, we have Black Chrysanthemum, we got, Boba, and we have the Mandalorian. I think these last 2 episodes, of Boba Fett kind of made me happy in the sense because I missed the Mandalorian, right? And now let's talk about this. I have to talk about the CGI that was used on Luke Skywalker's face. First of all, they made some payoffs on this last episode of Boba Fett that was just like, I mean, for real. The you had Luke running with Grogu on his back, like he ran with Yoda on his back, doing some of the same moves, the flips and everything. I thought that was awesome. I thought that was an awesome callback to Star Wars, and it was so dope. I'm sitting here just losing it. I'm like, wow, this is dope. Then, of course, just the CG. I mean, it was like perfect. And rumor has it, y'all tell me if I'm wrong. Rumor has it that it was a little kid who actually did the face mapping better from the last Mandalorian episode to where now he has a job. He actually did the face mapping better, showed the video to Disney, and they hired him. And he's the one who face mapped Luke Skywalker for this episode.
It was some guy on YouTube. It was just some YouTuber who put out the video, and then Disney hired him. I don't know if he's young or old, but I'm guessing not too old. But it's crazy to think about how some guy in his house did a better job than like $1 billion company. So like that's kind of odd, don't you think? It's like, how did you guys miss this?
That's way odd, but it's proof that, hey man, I mean, the technology's out there for anybody to do anything. You just gotta want to do it.
Absolutely.
I'm sure there's probably. I can't say it was somebody living in his mama's basement. I can't say that, but I can say it was somebody with a lot of time on their hands who knew how to face map, and he face mapped way better than Disney's editors. And they have the best ever. But they missed on this one. But I could tell you the face mapping on this episode of Boba Fett was impeccable. You could not tell that this wasn't actually Luke Skywalker, a young version. And think about what they're going to be able to do with movies moving forward. Like, what they could do with Wesley. I'm just saying.
Oh my God, leave it alone.
And make Wesley younger and give us our real Blade. I want the real Blade. I'm just saying they could do that. They could do it.
Don't bring Marvel into Star Wars right now. Leave the MCU out of this. It's the Star Wars cinematic universe.
But think about it though. Honestly, think about what you could do with face map and move forward. What did you think about this, Big G? Talk to me about that.
They've already said that there's an upcoming trailer, and rumors have been heard out there that they're going to drop the trailer for Obi-Wan Kenobi during the Super Bowl 2. And they said that the trailer is going to blow you away because there's a lot of the story of Obi-Wan Kenobi is also going to be the story about Darth Vader or Anakin Skywalker. So there's going to be a lot of face mapping stuff that's done with the original actors with that as well. So there's already rumors out there saying that like this technology they're going to do is going to give us the ability to actually tell stories about people or characters that we love that, have, time has passed, 15, 20 years. Those actors don't look the same. Their bodies are not the same. So now with this ability, man, what they're going to be able to do is so pretty much endless. They're going to be able to tell the stories like having the original actors tied to stuff, which in turn might eventually help Marvel in some capacity. But this ain't about Marvel. This is about Star Wars. And if you notice it too, Star Wars, since Disney took Star Wars, it's like the trailblazer for Marvel, right? So like when they prove that something works through Star Wars, they try it in Marvel. That's where all because you got to remember the Disney Plus show about the Mandalorian dropped before there was any Disney Plus shows about anything from Marvel. So now you got Mandalorian season 1, season 2, now Boba Fett. You got Obi-Wan Kenobi.
You got Bad Batch in there.
Bad Batch.
I'm gonna tell you the truth.
It's test runs for them.
Big G.
So I think that
Big G. I think the world is waiting for Obi-Wan Kenobi. I mean, I think if there's anybody who loves Star Wars, I think everybody wants to know what happened to Obi-Wan when he went to go watch over Luke. Like, you know, there's so much of his timeline that's missing. Like, we know he fell in love at one point. We know that happened through the books, right? I mean, let's see that. You know, let's see, you know, what he did, how he learned how to commune with Yoda, you know, basically after Yoda died, right? Let's see that. Let's see some of the things that we know about Obi-Wan Kenobi, who was actually, in my opinion, the most powerful Jedi. You know what I'm saying? He really ended up being the guy.
Right. Ben died before Obi-Wan. Yoda learned how to commune with Obi-Wan. So it was the reverse. But the issue is that Obi-Wan, and I sort of like what they did on Disney Plus. They did The Mandalorian first to give credence or credit or to give you a story about Boba Fett. Now they're doing Boba Fett, right? And Boba Fett is tying in Anakin Skywalker, Luke Skywalker, that whole lineage or line. Moving forward with Obi-Wan Kenobi, I think you're going to see all three stories tied together too. Because what they're doing is building out a universe to give credence about other stuff that you don't necessarily know. The part that I don't like is they're not staying totally with the comic or with the novels, but they are building a story where those characters overlap each other.
Well, let me ask you a question,
I really
Big
believe
G.
that.
Let me ask you a real question, and this goes out to you, Max. It's kind of like what Marvel is doing. Can we tell a story apart from using the movies? I mean,
absolutely.
without using the movies.
Absolutely. I think that's what Star Wars has done. I think that's what made Star Wars so special. You have all of this gap in everything. Like George Lucas was smart to put gaps. Like he put a 20-year gap between episodes 3 and 4. You know how many stories you can tell? They've already made a movie about the gap in what happened. They're going to make countless shows about what happened. I never
want to see again in life. I mean, it was so useless. I know that it was.
I think Rogue One was a good movie. You're a hater, but
no, Max.
It was a good movie. You're a hater. Max. We're talking about Boba Fett.
but Max, didn't he? They already said something. We got this information at a big, huge cost.
Yeah, but I think it's cool to see it on the big screen. You get to see Darth Vader be a monster for like 2 minutes, which was like just the highlight of the movie. I think it's just cool. I think it's just cool that they can just fill in the gaps. And I mean, you talked about we want an Obi-Wan show. We all wanted a Boba Fett show. They had a Boba Fett game in development they canceled. They had a Boba Fett film they canceled. They had an Obi-Wan film they canceled because Solo didn't do so good. Good movie, underrated. Everyone sucks. It's just Star Wars has this innate ability to tell stories inside of stories. And they have, like, what if we saw Omega from Bad Batch, Boba's sister, technically? What if we saw her? Where's she in this? Like, there's so many places. Like, people thought the Bad Batch was going to be Boba Fett's guys. If you bring the Bad Batch to live action, and that's what's also cool. They're bringing people who are animated to life, like Ahsoka. We saw Rosario Dawson play her after we just saw her be an animated character for like 10 years.
Yeah, and she has her own series and special that's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Ahsoka has her own. So there's going to be one about Obi-Wan Kenobi. There's going to be one about her. And there's rumors out there. There's going to be one about Yoda. So you're going to have, like Max was saying, like Juan is saying, they're just pushing all this stuff together because there's so much gaps in the content, and they're actually creating, in my opinion, they're actually creating their better stories in some capacities than what we know from some of the canonized stuff in the comics and the novels. I want to see to include some of that. But some of the stories that they've done already with The Mandalorian and with Boba has been actually outstanding.
I agree with you, man. I agree with you. Like, they've gone a little too far off, like, the books that were established. Like, they kind of wiped everything out, and now they're, like, kind of nitpicking what they want. I wish they'd stay a little more true to it.
Yeah. Well, so I think, so my question, now I go back to my question, is you can't grab so much of the books that you leave what has already been seen out, right? Because it's like with the multiverse and Marvel, what we're able to do is go back and right the wrongs that were done in the X-Men, the wrongs that were done with the Fantastic Four. We're able to kind of round that up and bring that back. And I think that's the same kind of process that's happening with Star Wars is if you get too far away from the movies and get into the actual novels, you're going to lose people, right? The people who are only watch the movies are not going to know what the heck is going on with the books, right?
I don't think that's necessarily true because I don't think a lot of people read Guardians of the Galaxy or had any clue who those guys were and like it was a
Right.
hit. Because I think part of it is the shows. Like if they make a show about like something that's kind of book, not like book lore, and they'll always like make it like relevant. Like people didn't know what happened between 2 and 3 when it came out, like the movies, but people understood like, oh, there was a war and they filled in the gap. So I don't think it's a huge deal. I think you'll never get the full experience if you don't know that stuff, but you'll get like 80% the experience.
Right. And Marvel hasn't stayed true to the game either, man, as far as it's concerned, because the MCU doesn't match the Marvel comic book experience, you know. So that's just what I see too. They don't match. What you think, Juan? I mean, Max.
No, I
said
agree
Juan
with you
because I was
100.
reading your backdrop.
No, sorry. Yeah, shout out to that. No, but it's just it's impossible to always stay true to everything. You have to kind of nitpick here and there, and that's just a part of it. Like you can't have everything be correct. And I mean, that's the cool thing about Star Wars is you can kind of be a little bit better than Marvel because you don't have all these comic books to like go off of. The comic books were made after the movies, like the movies came
Right.
before. So
Right.
the movies are really like essentially the Bible in the Star Wars galaxy in a sense, like where it's the law. The movies are like the law. So everything
Yeah.
else you can kind of like be a little like iffy with.
Well, see, I want to point this out too, man, and this is where the rubber hits the road moment, right? Because you have loyal people who are loyalists as far as the novels and the comics, and Max hit that like right out of the park. They're loyalists as far as that. So when they see this new stuff, they're like, I really don't want to tie into all of that. That's why it has to be such good quality to bring those people who really carried the franchises, you know, and bought the merchandise, bought the characters, bought the little trophies and all whatever, and the little things you could buy, novelty items to keep it going for years, right? It's the same things happening in Marvel. That, you know, they're having to build a story out to bring those people that carried the stuff for years over, you know, and not get so far away, like how you said, Mont, get so far away from some of the canonized stuff, because who they don't want to lose is those people like Max, myself, who have been riding with Star Wars forever, and then now you start creating these new stories, and we're like, nah, that ain't that. You know, it's really supposed to be this way. So I think that they have to stay as close as you can with every character moving forward, regardless if it's Obi-Wan Kenobi or Yoda, or even now with Boba Fett. They're laying backdrop and back lore so that to make sure to keep people like us interested in those lines, because moving forward, they'll lose us. And if they lose us, they don't have a story.
100% well said. It's like I've told you guys this, I'm not the biggest fan of Boba Fett, the character, of how they've done him, but I love the show. And I didn't like the Bad Batch I liked the Bad Batch, but it hurt me to watch it because I was like, this isn't really like canon. Like this was just like they threw it in there. Like, where are the Republic Commandos? Where's like the Mandalorian training sergeants? So especially with Boba Fett, I'm not a fan of how they did the character that much. Like, I think he's been a little bit too much of like, I have a second chance. Like, I love life. It's like, nah, bro, you're still a killer. Come on. Like, remember who you are.
Right.
So what we're going for now, going forward, we saw two things, and I want to point these last two things out before we get ready to wrap up the show. First thing, we saw the building of the actual Jedi Temple, right?
The new Jedi Temple.
We saw the building of it that we saw in the last Wars that we got. Definitely, we got a chance to see it full blown with the books in it and everything else. So we saw that, and then we saw this character who looks like he is right out of the Old West with a hat on, with his head down, and he blasted the deputy of the town and hit the sheriff. Didn't kill him, but he hit him. Now, I need for you guys to tell us who this character is and why he's relevant. I'll start with you, Max.
It's Cad Bane. He's a fan favorite in Star Wars, the Clone Wars animated show. In that show, he's just a bad dude. He's gonna blast people. He's kind of just like, I'm out for me. I don't care who I hurt. Like, he'll kill anybody. He stole a holocron from the Jedi Temple. He was kidnapping children for Darth Sidious. he's just he also trained Boba Fett. Like Boba Fett has a relationship with him. I don't know if they're going to explore that in the show, but he's even in Bad Batch. He's trying to kill Omega or kidnap Omega when he gets the bounty, and Fennec Shan beats him up. But he is literally like kind of evil personified. I feel like he's just out for himself. He has no moral of good or bad. It's just bad with him.
Yeah.
And Big G.
I'm piggybacking what Max said too, man. Cad Bane is like the ultimate bounty hunter, right? You know, so like all the little things that we think and we know about Boba, which a lot of people like about the bounty hunter aspect, Boba still got some morals and some scruples. Cad Bane, nah, bro. Cad Bane will sell his mom out. He'll sell his. Cad Bane will kill his grandmama for some Republican credit. Or I'm trying to tell you, Cad Bane, he's is bounty hunter personified. You know, and that's got a lot to do. Now, this is what I heard or thought about Cad Bane. Cad Bane, when I did a backdrop or deep dive on him, he's got a lot of ties to those Pikes. So, you know, and that's that mafia that you see him trying to take over the planet. So there's a lot of ties with the Pikes and Cad Bane, and I think that's what makes him as ruthless as he actually is.
And you guys, so is there anything else that we want to add before we wrap up that we want everybody to know about Boba and this whole series?
Which do you guys think Grogu's going to choose? That's all I want to know. I'm just curious. We'll see what you guys think.
I think Grogu's actually going to choose the Mandalorian path. Honestly, it's just too much. It's too much of a tie there, you know. And I think he's going to choose to the Mandalorian path because you know they're going to be together, and I think you're going to see that in season 2.
I think just the opposite. And me and Ma talked about this off screen. I think he's going to take the saber, right? Because you have to build on the story of why Luke did what he did in the new 3 movies, right? Because the issue is where's Grogu? Where's he at, right? So because he wasn't in those 3 things. So I think he's going to take the saber, but I think that, like we already know, Luke made some major mistakes in trying to rebuild the Jedi lore. And the Jedi Temple is why he even went into more isolation. So I think he takes the lightsaber issue, he takes it, and then we're going to get a whole build out about the Mandalorian with Grogu that's going to move forward to build out that backdrop story that we know as the 3rd set of the books from Star Wars.
I like it. I mean, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm going to go lightsaber too, but there's no logic. I'm just going to go with that's what he's going to do. Like, I get you. I mean, he's already displayed kind of some dark side stuff when he was choking the guards in Mandalorian season 2. So Grogu, I mean, he's got some baggage. So I'm going to think Luke's going to fix him up and make him a true Jedi. And he's becoming a good Jedi. And I love what Luke did. Like, that was a smart move by Luke.
Yeah. Yeah,
well, we'll see. We definitely will see. We got one more episode of the Mandalorian left. I mean, excuse me, Boba Fett left.
Yeah.
And yeah, it feels like the Mandalorian. We got one more episode of Boba Fett left, so we'll see exactly where they're going to go with this. But thank you guys for hanging out with us on this Saturday morning. And definitely, if you like the content, make sure you mash that like button, smash that subscribe button. So when we do go live on YouTube, you will be present and be able to check it out. Man, for myself, for Big G, for Max, man, we are out of here. Thank you for rocking with us. Peace.